and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. I am Peter Hamrock. I'm the Interim Activities Director here at Apollo. On the slide, you'll see my phone number, my email address, and also if you'd like to follow Apollo Activities on Twitter, that is our handle. Hopefully you're also familiar with, if you haven't met her before, my assistant Teresa, her phone or her email address. If you have any questions at any time regarding Apollo activities, feel free to contact us via phone or via email, and we'll get back to you. I do want to introduce at this time two people who are very important to the Apollo activities community. First off, we're going to hear from Julie Dayak. She's from St. Cloud Orthopedics, and she's our trainer. And then we'll turn to Nadine Meyer, our school nurse. But now let's go to Julie Dayak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Dayak, and this is my first year as the athletic trainer at Apollo High School. I come from the College of St. Benedict, where I was there for 22 years, doing athletic training there as well. So I'm excited to be here. You will find me in my office Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 3:30 to 5:30. My cell phone number is on my door to the training room. And so if you do need to get a hold of me, you can use that number. Texting is probably the best way because when I am in the clinic, I can't answer the phone, but I can see my text messages. You can also see that phone number is also on the screen that we have up here too. I will be working with Peter and Teresa and Nadine on some of the return to play protocols that will be in place for not only COVID, but also for concussions. And I will also be there for any injuries or things like that that you may want to be looked at or need assistance in therapy or that type of thing. We also do have Ortho Direct, so if I'm not at school and someone gets hurt and you'd like to get in to see someone, or St. Cloud Orthopedics has, you can go directly there, and we're open 8 to 8, Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays, we're from 8 in the morning to noon. You can just walk into the clinic and get assistance that way. I look forward to working with all of you, and let's go Eagles.
All right. Thank you, Julie. And now Nadine Meyer, our school nurse at Apollo.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nadine. This is my second year as the Apollo school nurse. The number on the slide here is incorrect. It is 8667. And during this year, my main role working with the teams has been COVID. And I just want to remind everybody that if you do develop cold or flu-like symptoms, stay home and call me, or you can email me. And we will be, we'll work together, and I will provide any additional information that you need and pass that along to Peter and Teresa and also your coaches. A reminder that any student testing positive for COVID-19 will need to complete the full 10-day quarantine. And then also the requirement set by the Minnesota State High School League that student athletes who test positive are required to have a medical evaluation by a healthcare provider prior to returning to physical activity. And again, we will be working closely with your coaches and Julie as your students return. Any completed forms or letters that you receive from the provider should come directly to the Apollo Health Office. Also, anyone who has close contact with a person that has tested positive for COVID-19 does need to complete the 14-day quarantine. If you have questions, concerns about that, certainly give me a call or an email. And again, we can walk through all of that. So I look forward to working with everybody this year. Thank you.
All right, and as much as we enjoy working with Nadine, our preference is always that you don't have to talk to her during this sports season because you've not contracted COVID or had any problems. And as I've seen in our early practices already this year, Eagles are doing a great job of wearing masks, social distancing, doing all those things that we need to do to remain playing. And so I applaud you all for doing that, and really appreciate your efforts moving forward on keeping our Eagle teams on the courts, on the fields, and wherever we're at. I do want to just kind of illustrate our coaches. Obviously, if you're into a sport right now, you know who your coach is, but just as familiar with some of the other names, we do have a number of sports that are co-opted at this time. So you just get an idea of who the people are involved with Apollo Athletics. Some realities of high school sports. You're probably familiar with this if you played for a few years. Very few athletes will move on to college. That's just a reality. Even fewer become professional athletes. Professional coaches and those athletes, they make millions. But high school coaches, they're not in it for the pay, and high school athletes actually pay to play. Coaches coach because they love the game and they love working with students. Students play because they love the game, being with teammates, and really just having fun. One of those unfortunate realities is that sports fans can be negative and critical, but I think we can outweigh that. As Apollo athletes, coaches, and parents and fans, we will set the standards for excellence in sportsmanship. When I talk about sportsmanship, the conference that we're in, Central Lakes Conference, at the end of every season, coaches do a vote on the team sportsmanship award. And as you can see, Apollo is trailing a bit. On the upside, this past fall, our volleyball and boys cross-country teams were awarded sportsmanship awards. And so this is a category that as years go on, I want to see Apollo numbers keep going up, that we are recognized by our peers in the other cities and schools of being really strong in the area of sportsmanship. Touch a bit on social media. And you hear a lot about this as students, athletes, parents, but really think before you post anything. Just give an idea of, is it really relevant for me to do this? Is it necessary? Is it going to help anyone out? Sometimes just doing nothing is the best thing at all for not posting. Remember that in the end, you do represent yourself, your family, and Apollo High School. Positives are always much better than negatives. And again, just think before you post. Do want to touch upon academic eligibility. This is from the high school league. Students that participate in academic or athletic activities have an expectation to maintain high academic progress. You can read through this here, but it really is, it's an honor to be able to participate in athletics. But your main goal as a student athlete is academics. And so you need to be continually making progress with academics. The first standard we look at is if you're in good standing. Students that are receiving a C- or higher in all classes, and you've earned at least the minimum number of credits for that trimester, look at that, you're ready to go, you're fully eligible to play. If you go into a Tier 1 status, those are students receiving a D+ to a D- in one or more current classes, but you've earned at least the minimum number of credits you need to be on the path to graduation. What will happen then is you'll be monitored by this office until all your grades are brought up to a C- or higher, and you'll still be fully eligible through that process. You begin to Tier 2. Now, a lot of words here, and this can all be found in your student handbook, but the student has a failing grade in one or more required classes, but you've earned the minimum number of credits for that trimester. You'll meet with the MTSS team and myself. You'll be placed on academic probation, but you may continue to participate as you make progress towards completion of that plan. You will be placed on progress report for the remainder of the trimester. If you're making that inadequate progress towards completion of the plan, you may then become ineligible for participation. And at this point, parents and guardians will be brought in. So you're still able to participate, but we need to be seeing that plan, that progress, all those things moving forward. If, unfortunately, you get to maybe Tier 3, which is academic monitoring, that is when a student is 4 or more credits short of the required number of credits for that trimester. You will meet again with the MTSS team and myself. We'll develop a plan and to reach a required minimum number of credits to be removed from this Tier 3. You are placed on a progress report for that entire trimester. And again, parents and guardians are notified. This is where, again, you're dragging now in that area of credits needed. And the ultimate goal is to get our student athletes to graduation. And so having those credits is vital to that. Just kind of taking all these words into more of an easy to look at chart. The thing to be looking at is you're eligible on the first, on the good standing, and on tier 1. Tier 2 you'll still be active to participate as long as you're making progress. But if you get to that tier 3, that's when you have to start looking at maybe removing you from active activities until you have that academic piece of the pie up to speed. Another area of eligibility is chemical. At any time during the calendar year, that's a full calendar year, if you're registered as a student athlete, a student shall not, regardless of quantity, use or consume, have in possession a beverage containing alcohol, tobacco, buy, sell, or give away controlled substances or drug paraphernalia or products that deliver nicotine or other chemicals. If you are found in violation, that first violation, you lose eligibility for the next 2 consecutive contests or 14 calendar days, or whichever is greater. So an example, a lot of teams have 2 games a week coming up, and that may be week to week. So you would have to incur being out for 2 weeks, which might be up to 4 games if you are found to be in violation of the chemical policy. If you have a second violation, that becomes 6 contests or 21 calendar days, and a third violation would be 12 consecutive contests or 28 calendar days. The best way is just to avoid getting in those kind of situations at all. Students may be disciplined for off-campus conduct that disrupts, interferes, or otherwise affects the school environment or the operations of the school. If normally when we're all in school, the rule is to be in school by 11:30 a.m. to be able to participate that day. The good rule of thumb now, while we're in any distance or hybrid, is just log on, get into those classes, get the work done on time and the time that it should be done. All right, so you're on the team, you've got the season going, and you're starting to feel some kind of problem. You've got something that you just need to talk about. I really encourage our student athletes just talk to the coach. Say, Coach, do you have a few minutes after practice we can talk? I know the folks on this coaching staff, they're all very open to having those conversations, getting to see what's on your mind, what might be bothering you. If you get to a point where maybe that's not working, you want to bring in a parent, ask your parent or guardian, hey, could you talk to the coach, see if we can all get together and talk about 1 or 2 of these things that might be bothering me. If it gets to a point maybe where you don't feel that conflict, that issue has been resolved, please bring me in. At any point, bring me in, and I will help mediate between the coaches and you, the student athlete, just to make sure that we get everything talked about, resolved, and we can work through those problems. I do say, though, let's say it's afternoon of a practice, you get done and you're feeling something's just bugging you. Go home, let it kind of rest on your brain for a while, let it sit. Don't get reactionary right away. Don't snap out and lash out. Take that, I'd like to call it 24-hour cooling off period to kind of think about things, come back at it with a cooler mind. And also, don't use social media or friend groups. Those aren't places really to resolve your issues. If you've got problems with coaches or another student athlete, resolve it directly with those folks and just don't let your friends and everyone's social media know what's bugging you. It's not the right way to resolve it. All right. We are all in this together. It's kind of a cliche phrase, but I love to use it. And I think, it's kind of a good reminder for folks to, what I like to say is know your role. You're a student athlete. Your academics come first. That's the most important thing. That's why you're in school. I always like to say practice with purpose. What that means is when you're out there, that's the time for you to focus on this sport, to make yourself better, to make your team better. Communicate with your teammates, your coaches, your parents, with me if needed. Always make sure those lines of communication are open. That's how you can grow and gain in the game. And always remember, you are representing yourself in Apollo High School anytime you're at practice or you put that uniform on or you're wearing some Apollo gear around town. Coaches, I know that we're always focused on academics. We ask our coaches to lead by example. They ask them to plan practices and games. We always ask our coaches if we know that they're going to praise and reprimand when appropriate. I like to use the phrase with our coaches, be the adult in the room. If there's a time where someone needs correcting or some guidance or some teaching, that's the job of the coach as being the adult in the room. Collaborative decision-making, great coaches will work with their assistant coaches, and I see that every day here at Apollo. Our coaches are focused on safety, whether it be from COVID or just buses, all those kind of things. We want to make sure that you, the student athletes, are being taken care of that way. And again, coaches, you represent yourself and Apollo. And finally, parents. You do it all the time, but I always like to remind, you are there to support your student. You support our teams, but it's always good to support all other teams, all other athletes. You know, if somebody scores a 3-pointer from the other team on a beautiful shot, hey, it's okay to have a little applause for that kid. It helps everybody out. And transportation. Yes, for a lot of our student athletes, parents and guardians, you are their transportation. So we do appreciate that, especially in times when we can't have kids loitering around the school at any great times. We do ask that you be as prompt as possible on getting them to practice, but also picking them up after practices and games. And while it may be difficult in times like these, I always encourage our parents to interact with other parents. It's always not a bad idea to strike up a conversation at a game with maybe someone you've seen at this game for week after week, but get to know them, get to know who their student athlete is, and find out more about them. And again, parents, you do represent yourself, and you do represent Apollo High School. One aspect of communication, I encourage you to, if you haven't already, go to the Central Lakes Conference website, centrallakeconference.org. Click on school calendars, click on the Apollo calendar, and then on the right-hand side, go to Notify Me. And there, register for the sport that your student is involved in. Anytime there's a change made to the schedule, if you're on that Notify Me, you will receive notification of the change. So it's on days when there might be a snowstorm or some sort of cancellation or whatever. The second we go in and change that, you'll get notification, and that way is a great way for you to stay up to date as what's happening, finding out before your student athlete actually texts you and says, hey, something's changed. And also do follow Apollo Activities on Twitter. I'm going to do my best to make sure that we're getting scores and game notifications and changes and all those things sent out as quickly as possible. And I know that each of our teams has also methods of getting those messages out. So we do hope that we are communicating as best as possible. If you ever find that that's not happening from a school or team basis, please contact me, and we can do whatever we can to change that. We unfortunately had a little mess up here in the way I set this up, so there's not an opportunity at this point for folks to directly ask questions. But I do encourage you, from that information at the beginning, to contact my office. Give me a call, send me an email. If you have any questions about what's happening, I'm more than happy to answer those. If I can't find the answer, I'll get the answer for you. But with that, I do like to keep it short and to the point. So I do thank you for your time. I thank you, students, for being out there this winter. I thank you, parents and guardians, for being there to support them. And I thank our coaches for the coaching and all their efforts. And I wish you a successful winter season.